didn't even last 24 hours. It didn't even last 24 hours. At least we know who's to blame now. But let's get into this breaking news.
Now we have the breaking news that as the Trump administration has been signaling that they've achieved the greatest deal that they could ever achieve, we've heard from the Iranian side that the agreement actually contains much of the terms that they wanted in the first place. And now we also have the bombing of Beirut that Israel has conducted very soon after we were told by anonymous U.S. officials that this deal is basically done. What exactly is happening right now? And the bombing of Beirut, this is by Israel. I mean, this is a red line once again crossed.
Daniel, you becoming a revolutionary Shia Muslim. You become very otherworldly. No like button, no pressing the like, no. It's all spiritual now for you.
Yes. Yeah, it's all we are together in the sacrifice, but continue.
Well, anyway, do press the like button. Danny's too shy to ask you to do so. It's difficult to say what's happening, obviously, because things are so fluid. And it's clear that the Israeli regime wants to disrupt any agreement. And of course, the Iranians have not said that the text is agreed upon, and it's not. The Iranians have issues that need to be resolved, and the claims made by the Americans or the Trump regime, Axios, or whoever is this mouthpiece of the White House nowadays, those claims are not accurate. And yet, what the Israeli regime did today can be interpreted in two different ways, but also it could be both. And one is that the Israeli regime wants to wreck the deal, and it wants to undermine the Trump regime because the Trump regime wants out because of the growing energy crisis. And we're all hearing nowadays that even senior energy experts and senior figures in energy companies are now openly saying that things are going to get very bad pretty soon. So the Israeli regime wants to block Trump's effort to have a deal. Another interpretation could be that the Israeli regime has convinced Trump of a good cop, bad cop approach, where since the Iranians still have issues with the text, in order to force Iran to change its position and to give concessions, or just to undermine the deal, and Trump has agreed to allow them to undermine the deal for whatever reason, that could be another approach. In other words, it could be something with the consent of the White House, either as good cop, bad cop, or because the White House has been convinced that they have to listen to the Zionists. Or it could be a mixture of these things. But in any case, I think it's pretty clear that Iran will punish the Israeli regime, and that the deal will not benefit from what happened today. In other words, it will make the Iranians much more cautious about signing an agreement, and there's no doubt that no concessions will come out of this. In fact, it will be the opposite. The Iranians will be more concerned about the ability of the United States, or the will of the United States, or the intention of the United States to fulfill any obligations in a potential deal. So basically, all that aside, what the Israeli regime and the Zionists have done today is that they've pushed the global economy closer towards catastrophe.
Yes, and Professor Marandi, now I wanted to ask, given this, I don't know if you saw the Israeli media in the lead up to the Beirut bombings. I mean, what we had essentially was Donald Trump touting that this deal was all but done, that everything had been agreed upon, that Iran was going to promise no nuclear weapons, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and that essentially the United States was getting everything that it wanted. And then Israel came out with a number of scathing pieces about the deal itself. Here in the Jerusalem Post, they published JPCOA 2.0, Trump's deal risks undercutting efforts against the Iranian threat. It's not enough.
I'll just quickly, just remember, there's energy crisis in the Straits of Hormuz, and the nuclear threat, in fact. Before the 28th of February, Iran didn't have nuclear weapons, we're not pursuing nuclear weapons. The Strait was open and the energy markets were fine.
For Israeli officials to say that Trump understands Israel's position, it's not a great deal. It's a dangerous one. And they specifically cite that Iran's government, Iran's leadership has not been sufficiently weakened enough to essentially meet Israel's demands. And then I don't know if you saw here a DD Geopolitics reported on what Ynet said, which is that Israeli officials are saying that Trump has stabbed them in the back. According to Israeli outlet Ynet, senior officials in Israel believe the deal damages Israel's interests and fails to address core threats posed by Iran's nuclear and missiles program. Our voice is not being heard. It's a bad deal. No one is happy about it. Everyone understands it's bad for us and harms Israel's interests. And then we had the bombing of Beirut. Bombing Beirut as we recorded this, Professor Marandi, and they say it's in response to Hezbollah. But of course, this is what is always being said when Israel takes its frustrations out on the Lebanese population. So, President Marandi, is Trump trying to surrender and Israel sabotaging it? Or is this once again some careful game that both the U.S. and Israel are playing to both extend the war while at the same time feigning that there are efforts to stop it?
Both interpretations can be true. As I mentioned earlier, it could be that this is good cop, bad cop. It could be that the Israelis have convinced Trump to allow this to happen, to maybe they could get concessions, or just they've convinced Trump to let them carry out this operation to show their strength, or there's a division between the Trump regime and the Netanyahu regime. I personally think that all of these could be true, and they could be true at the same time, simultaneously in some ways. But I have a feeling that this is more about the Israeli regime trying to undermine the deal. And Trump is a weak person, so it's not that it hasn't been so far difficult for them to do that. Remember, the United States and the Iranians already had a deal. After the 39-day war, we had a ceasefire, which included Lebanon. And then as soon as that ceasefire was announced, the entire Lebanon, literally, in different parts of Lebanon, including areas which are controlled by the opponents of the resistance, were carpet bombed by the Israelis. And that undermined the ceasefire. And then Trump sided with Israel and said Lebanon was not a part of the deal. And of course, the Pakistani mediator had to come out and say that, no, it is a part of the deal. So because of that, Iran prevented those ships from the 5 regimes that helped the United States, and the 5 regimes in the Persian Gulf that assisted the United States in the war, prevented their ships from moving. And that hasn't changed. So because of Netanyahu, for 2 months, the Strait of Hormuz has been limited in operation. So Netanyahu and Trump have both created this global crisis. Netanyahu has created an environment for it to continue. And now, as there is a possibility for a deal, even though we're not there yet, and as I said, contrary to what Trump and others have said, there's not a final text yet. But as we appear to be closer to a deal, an agreement, the Israelis are striking Beirut in order to undermine it. And I think that there will be punishment. The Iranians will punish the Israeli regime. And I think that there won't be an agreement now, for the time being at least.
So,
and that's it. Netanyahu is actively trying to stop any deal going through because the Israelis and the Zionists, they want greater Israel. They will not stop until they get greater Israel. But because Netanyahu's trying to draw America back in, all the money. Look at Miriam Edelson. 200 million. I hear people talking billions. Somewhere between those figures to get Trump in. Remember, she was all in Biden's lap before she realised that Trump was going to get the vote. The flip-flop between they're not red or blue. They are just blue and white. Greater Israel. And I know Netanyahu wants America back in, but we're going to quickly get into this clip here from someone who knows what they're talking about. This is why America can't go back in. Give us 2 seconds. Excuse the quality, obviously. Dan's usually in his studio at home, but this is very important. This is why people need to understand, let's get into this.
Those days are gone and they will never come back. And the only question is, and only time will answer this, how much worse will it get? But the fakery and the attempt to put lipstick on a pig by Hegseth continued on. Watch this.
I think your viewers need to remember, Project Freedom never stopped, and we've run 125 million barrels of oil through the straits, and Iran couldn't do anything about it. How many ships from Iran have transited our blockade? Zero. We have controlled the straits this entire time.
Right,
this
you're going to
MOU
negotiate
will
with them
open
to
immediately and
to
gradually.
reopen it.
I truly have to ask this and wonder, and this is a legitimate statement, not a rhetorical one. Does Secretary Hegseth genuinely think that people are so stupid that they're going to believe that now? And I'm talking even about his supporters. Obviously, those like us who are willing to look at things as they are have just shaken our heads and just not condemnation, but just embarrassment for Secretary Hegseth to say stuff like that is so far off of the range here that oh, we're in control of the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, if we're in control of the Strait of Hormuz, then why are we even talking about a negotiated settlement? If we crushed their military and militarily defeated them, which he has previously said, along with his boss, President Trump, then why would we even be talking with them? We would be going back to what President Trump said in the first week, which is unconditional surrender, or in his opening day. Remember that? We showed, I think, just last night. President Trump said the IRGC must lay down their arms or face certain death, only they didn't. We killed a lot of them, but not that many. I mean, remember, their active forces with the besieged and the IRGC and the regular army were somewhere around 900,000, and now they've mobilized a bunch more, and they're apparently somewhere, they claimed somewhere in 10, 20 million. That's with just people signing up willing to help out or whatever, but it's a lot of people standing up to fight. And I think there's been like 3,500 killed or something like that. Not quite. All of them facing certain deaths. So obviously we've already been exposed as that just being absurd statement, no truth in it whatsoever, nor are there here. We're in control of the Strait of Hormuz, he says. Iran has got no ships out. That's obviously false. I mean, it's self-evident. I mean, there's like tanker tracker numbers, for crying out loud, by name, have been seen to go through. We even talked about interdicting some of them later on. So what are we interdicting if none of them got through? You see what I'm saying? And then to claim that we have gotten all this other 150 tankers, whatever that number was, President Trump said 100 million barrels of oil have gotten out. No evidence at all of that. There's not. I mean, if there is, then the same way that we have been able to track by name some of these other ships from the Iranian side that did get out, that was coordinated through Tehran with China and some other countries as well. It's self-evident. You can Google those. You can find the tanker numbers. These you can't. Google and say, what are the ships that equal this, whatever the number was. He said 150 ships here. Okay, fair enough. That's what you claim. Produce the evidence. Show us which ships went through, what day, where they went. Just that's all you got to do. But they won't be coming because that's fiction. Some got through, I'm sure. There have been some reports that some got through, but it's not a fraction of what he claims. And to keep telling people that we're in control, it just continues to undermine the credibility and the reputation of the Department of Defense. It continues to shred any reputation that Secretary Hegseth still has among whoever it may be. People aren't going to listen to us. Our adversaries aren't going to listen to us. Our allies aren't going to believe a word we say. And when you're trying to negotiate a deal and trying to convince the American people something that's self-evidently untrue, you're not going to sway them either. And you're going to end up losing those. Now, the line can be embarrassing on one hand, but it can also be harmful in another area. Now, one of the things we've been telling you about, and it's been all over the Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, Wall Street Journal, everybody's been talking about this for a long time. Intelligence sources have leaked that because of all the stuff that we did with Ukraine for 4.5 years, all the stuff we had done with Israel since 2023, and then now all the missiles that we had fired, offensive and defensive, since the war started here, plus what we did in 2025, that our inventories are substantially declined. That the amount of, especially the high end, the JASSMs, the Tomahawk cruise missiles, the THAAD, the PAC-3 interceptors, all at critically low levels. That's self-evident. Larry Johnson has shown you just by the numbers what's been published since we even started building the PAC-3s especially. He just showed you mathematically how we've got to be at the bottom of the barrel. There's hardly any left. The manufacturing base we've tried to increase that, and it has increased, but anecdotally and incrementally, just a little bit percentage-wise. Because unless you go on a full wartime mobilization to where industry just throws caution to the wind and just does everything it can, and that will still take a couple of years to get there if we get to that point, which we haven't. Those are that's the reality. It's stuff that you can count. It's stuff that you can see. It's stuff that can be produced, and it's the whole logic stream. Everything I just told you can be validated. Here is how Secretary Hegseth talks about that same issue.
We're supercharging our arsenal of freedom, building more, building faster, opening up the Pentagon, ripping through the Pentagon bureaucracy to force industry to move faster. So,
but there is a crisis with those stockpiles right now. There is a crisis with those stockpiles right now in private industry.
That is a manufactured story that the media wants to peddle. And ultimately, our stockpiles are great, and they'll only get stronger because of the way this president has.
You testified under oth that it would take years to rebuild those stockpiles. It was the Biden administration that gave away munitions to the. You don't have to read back to me what I testified. I speculated some munitions take more time than others. We've got lots of them. We're building more than ever before. The Biden administration gave away hundreds of billions to Ukraine, and so President Trump had to refill, and he has, and we have in real time.
Really, we've refilled them in real time. We replaced all that we lost, even though you testified, which she reminded you, and you got aggravated about it. You said it would take years to reply. But yeah, forget about that. Forget what I said then. Just listen to what I said now. It's been refilled. That is a physical impossibility. It is a physical impossibility, and it is a ball-faced lie, categorically. Why does he want to keep doing this and shred even what minimal respect and credibility he has? There's none. I won't anymore believe anything he says. I cannot take a word he says at face value. And in fact, it's worse than that, because now the assumption is that he's lying. If he says anything positive, my first reaction is that he's lying, and I'm going to go and try and find some validation, some independent sources to confirm whether he's telling the truth or whether he's not. And when you know that we make around 600, 650, maybe PAC-3 interceptors per year, that's all we can produce. And then you know that we use probably several thousand in the first 40 days of this war. Do the math. Don't tell me that we're back to where we were, because that's a physical impossibility. We can't make them that fast, period. So it's a lot. And of course, that you can keep, some people are going to believe it just because they will believe every word that comes out of the administration, no matter how crazy it sounds, because they want to, because they don't want to believe the alternative. So they'll accept that. And he'll succeed at that to some degree. They'll hold on to some of their support. But listen to me. That is harmful to America, because let me tell you something. Iran is not fooled. Russia is not fooled. China is not fooled. They know exactly, they probably have better fidelity than I do with their intelligence sources, just how low our stockpiles really are.
And this is it. And big shout out to Daniel Davis, Deep Dive. Follow his channel. He's had all the right people on, all the experts. He is an ex-military high up. He knows what he's talking about. Israel think that America have unlimited supplies of these things, like. And unfortunately, They threw everything they could at Iran in the first 40 days. You can't penetrate mountains, and you can't beat a people who are willing to die for their cause and their country. But I just thought that was important to share, so there you go.